At his core, I mean, he was born in it, raised in it, literally in the cellars of his family in Vougeot, and I've had the great pleasure of working with him since I was a young winemaker out of UC Davis. Had started my first harvest with the Deloche family at Deloche Vineyards, and then his family made their first winery purchase in California of Deloche, and so got to know him early on, really in that kind of Pinot Noir centric land of the Russian River Valley. But you know, after a few years of kind of, I guess, getting comfortable in the area, he branched out with the purchase of Raymond Vineyards, and then really in a lot of ways, I think the winery that's kind of knitted everything together has been Buena Vista. A lot of it has to do with its location and its history. This prominent winery right on the edge of both Sonoma as well as Napa, historically owning properties on both sides of the hill, and also a winery that has over 100 years of history of making both these classic kind of Burgundian cool climate style wines, Chardonnays, Pinot Noirs, but also Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, and these warmer climates. And I think that comes from Augustin Hrasty, the founder, the Count of Buena Vista's vision at that time, that exploration. But also, when you look at this incredible place that Buena Vista was started at, it's a location that in a very short distance you shift from exploring and being in a very cool climate, that kind of Carneros, wind-swept area, to just over a ridgeline, all of a sudden you're in a quite warm pocket with different soils, much more suited to those Bordeaux varieties. We have stories of ghosts, but then we also have the stories of the Count himself. We have a fantastic gentleman who has brought back that history with an incredible amount of diligence in terms of the historical research going into the Count, but as well as portraying the energy and the enthusiasm that he brought to California and to Sonoma. There's very few places in the United States, I would say, that really have that energy. It's something that when you walk down the path into Buena Vista, you have to detach yourself. You're not driving up to it in a car. You're walking a path, and you're coming down into this little hidden valley against a hillside with these magnificent stone buildings. And then when you do walk into those buildings, there's an energy. You feel the thousands of hands that went into crafting the Buena Vista winery. And I literally mean hands, because it is hand carved out of the mountainside right where you're at. It's something that I'm a big believer that you have the energy of the people before you in the surroundings of where you are, and that energy lasts forever, and it never goes away. And you see it in the pick marks, but you also see it in just the intelligence of the design of that site, how it's oriented against that hillside, how those caves are carved into the hillside so that they are constantly cool. Even when we have these blazing hot days in Sonoma County where it's 100 degrees outside, in the caves of Buena Vista, you're at 55. And that says a lot to the forethought of the people like the Count Augustin Hrasty when he built this site and when he commissioned these caves to be dug. It wasn't for a 10 or 15 year program. This was for generations, and I am incredibly proud to be part of that legacy, holding on and keeping it going forward. Which, of course, it really came down to John Charles and his family investing into that, because when we purchased Buena Vista in 2011, that energy in a lot of ways wasn't there. It was very much imprisoned, for lack of a better word. It had been condemned. The bigger the two buildings, the larger the two buildings, had been condemned after the '89 earthquake. So it was shut. It was covered in ivy. There was cyclone fencing and asphalt. Literally, almost the exact opposite energy that you feel now. You felt like you were looking at, someone wasting away and waiting for that last, for lack of a better word, stroke, earthquake, or what have you, to collapse the buildings. And we came in, and his vision from day one was to reopen it to wine, to bring back winemaking, to bring back visitors, to bring back life to it. And it was a major endeavor. I mean, we're talking about every single stone of that building essentially needing to be reset. So all of the mortar, all of the grout holding it together to be chipped away. The building itself was given a new steel skeleton. So internal to all those stones is now a steel skeleton that holds it together. And then they were all remortared back to that steel skeleton. So when we had the 2014 Napa earthquake, quite a powerful earthquake. It kind of gets overshadowed by Loma Prieta and things like that. But this was an earthquake that literally shifted the Mayacama Mountains 18 inches. And if we had not done that restoration, if we hadn't had the foresight to make sure this building was preserved for, at least the next 100 years, if not beyond, it would have been rubble. So Chateau Buena Vista, as I mentioned earlier, it was really coined with, I think, Charles Sullivan's speech. On that was the morning of August 30th, 2012, if I remember correctly. So the Count's 200th birthday, we have all these speeches. He has his speech. He coins the term Chateau Buena Vista, and it just kind of lights a fire. And so we're talking with John Charles and Ken Hornline, our vice president of sales, and myself and Tom Blackwood, who's the general manager of Buena Vista, about we really want to make a wine that celebrates these buildings and celebrates Buena Vista's place. And so the decision's made. Well, let's buy a little bit of fruit this year. In 2012, we'll buy some Napa Cab, and it'll just be for the tasting room. And so we made a very small cuvee. It ended up being about 4 tons of fruit, so about 200 cases that we made of a 2012 Napa Valley Cabernet, and it sold out in that tasting room immediately. I mean, it was one of those like releases and gones.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. So great, right? Very exciting. Well, let's repeat. Let's do a 2013, and this time we decided we'll make enough for some wholesale sales, and so we did. Again, it was the type of thing where as soon as it shows up into the marketplace, people are loving this bottle, they're loving this story, they're loving this wine. And we've seen tremendous success about that Chateau Cabernet. In fact, today with the 2019 vintage, which we're in the process of bottling, and we're dealing with all the supply chain issues that everyone is these days, we're going to be producing upwards of 40,000 cases of that wine, coming from our own estate vineyards as well as partner sites that we work with up and down the Napa Valley, from Calistoga all the way down into Oak Knoll. So it's become a tremendous success for us. And because of that, we wanted to celebrate that chateau in another way, and that's with opening a new tasting lounge in the town of Napa. So it's a distinct experience, different than what you will have at the historic cellars in Sonoma. This is in the historic Gordon building, which is this beautiful, I'm going to call it Art Deco. I'm not an artist. John Charles will probably correct me later once he sees this. But a beautiful building, very much, high polish, and just you look at the exterior of this site and you want to go into the building. And then you go in and John Charles has really had his touch. It celebrates a period of time of, that just ethereal but still beautiful elements that you have. So lots of marble, lots of just beautiful things. I can't describe it quite well enough. I was just in there this weekend. You have a tremendous lounge with lots of turquoises and blues and just, the same velvety feel you see here in the Red Room, but it's its own Buena Vista place. And there we celebrate the wines of Chateau Buena Vista. So the Napa Valley in particular is our focus. With our expansion throughout Napa, we've partnered with several different vineyards throughout the different districts. And so we have Rutherford appellated Cabernet Sauvignon, Diamond Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon. We have an absolutely exquisite St. Helena Cabernet Franc coming from our Bartolucci Ranch. I think everyone should get a chance to try that. That is one of my favorite wines right now that we're pouring. There's nothing like a great Cabernet Franc. I think it's just got that voluptuous soft feel and aromatics and more. We've really had a chance I've had a chance as a winemaker to explore these appellations and develop what I feel are the styles of them. I come from a background of Pinot Noir. That's where I cut my teeth, so to speak. And so, with Pinot Noir, it's so easy in a way to have the site express itself. It's kind of you step back, you let a fermentation happen, and it shows. But that's Pinot Noir for you. Cabernet, to me, tends to behave a little bit more like Chardonnay, where it is influenced a lot by the winemaker, and so it takes a little bit more knowledge of that soil type, of that climactic influence, to really peek out what that side is showing. So whether it's Rutherford, where you're trying to really show these tannins and their intensity and their density and their length, versus St. Helena, which is maybe a bit softer and a bit richer. You need to really have a handle on where those grapes are coming from. And that has been my pleasure over the last few years. I'm glad this wasn't something I was tasked with early on. I'm glad it was something, after working with several different sites throughout the Napa Valley, in making one single blend, I was allowed to then pursue these different district bottlings. And we've had some great reception to them, and really excited about what's going on down at the Chateau.